Death is a universal concept, something that we will all experience one day. Yet, because death is so final, it is also something we can't fully conceive. Sure, we can maybe conceptually understand what happens as we die, but to fully grapple and to recreate that experience of dying, of knowing your days are finite and are running out every day, with the inability to actually experience death ourselves, it makes capturing the experience of death in art a futile attempt. Almost as futile is the attempt to grapple with the idea of death. Most art covering death focuses on the philosophical concept of dying, helping us grapple with the knowledge that we will one day no longer be around. And this is both inevitable and irreversible. But here's the thing. That idea is kinda terrifying. So most movies about death are somewhat depressing. To me, this is what makes the art I want to explore in this video a bit more fascinating. With Barbie, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and Goodbye Volcano High, we see a new trend in media. 3 pieces of art, each released within the past year or so, each covering the thematic idea of the inevitability of death. Yet, unlike previous media, each has an unmistakable, light-hearted tone, while not shying away from the weight of its themes.
I don't know why I just said that.
I'm just dying to dance.
Okay, so of the 3 pieces of media, I will admit that Barbie is probably the least interested in talking about the idea of death. Primarily, the film is more focused on its take on feminism. It grapples with the brand's history with feminism, exploring how the Barbie brand positively impacted feminism, as well as the criticism the brand has faced, and the overall tension between feminism and the patriarchy. And there's a lot to unpack here. I recommend the Takes video if you'd like to learn more, but that doesn't mean there's nothing for us to work with, because Barbie still overtly grapples with death alongside the concept of feminism. In the film, the Barbies and the Kens live in Barbie land, essentially a perpetual utopia. Well, for the Barbies, that's part of the feminism angle. Barbie essentially has a perfect life in Barbie land. That is, until Barbie starts contemplating her own mortality. This coincides with Barbie no longer being able to enjoy the joyful pleasures that she used to. We, of course, later learn that this comes from her former owner, Gloria, as Gloria's own existential crisis was transferred into Barbie herself. Now, it's fitting that Barbie is quite literally about toys, as when it comes to the inevitability of death, Barbie can be seen as a sort of coming-of-age story about accepting death. Barbie's time in Barbie land before her realization can be seen as a sort of representation of childhood. At this point in one's life, one does not have a full comprehension of what death is. When you're a kid, assuming one had a fairly normal childhood, life is a lot like what life is for Barbie. Every day is fun, good, joyful, yet also fairly predictable.
I don't have anything big planned, just a giant blowout party with all the Barbies and planned choreography and a bespoke song. You should stop by.
So cool.
It is only when one begins to grow up physically that they also grow up mentally. It's fitting that Barbie and Ken leave Barbie land to travel to the real world. A crucial plot point in the film is Barbie meeting Sasha, Gloria's daughter, then learning that the Barbie brand didn't have the positive impact on feminism that she was grown up to believe.
You destroy girls' innate sense of worth, and you are killing the planet with your glorification of rampant consumerism.
No, I'm supposed to help you and make you happy and powerful.
Oh, I am powerful. And until you showed up here and declared yourself Barbie, I hadn't thought about you in years, you fascist.
This whole portion of the film, Barbie learning the truths about feminism, Ken learning about the patriarchy, is all crucial to part of the film's theme of growing up. Part of growing up is learning about the truth about how the world works, and the sometimes devastating truth that the world is far more complicated than what you had thought as a child. After reconciling with the complexities of the world, Barbie makes the decision to leave the perfect world of Barbie land to become human. This is, in a sense, Barbie choosing to leave the simplistic childlike world behind in favor of being able to truly live, despite knowing that due to this decision, Barbie will one day die. Sure, Barbie isn't really primarily about death, but I wanted to use it first as it's a nice introduction to the idea. Barbie represents a certain period in all of our lives where our worlds go from simple to complicated, with death being one of the most difficult concepts for us to grapple in our adult lives. Barbie understands and shows that this transition from childhood into adulthood is complicated, but with that understanding, with that acceptance of death, Barbie quite literally becomes more human. In a sense, we ourselves also become human as we grow up.
Welcome to my fiesta! Make yourselves at home, yeah!
Okay, was anyone expecting the Puss in Boots sequel to hit as hard as it did? Of all the media in this video, Puss in Boots is the one that is most explicitly about death. The film's plot revolves around Puss, who has used up 8 of his 9 lives and goes searching for the legendary wishing star that will bring his 9 lives back, all while being hunted literally by the character of death. And unlike Barbie, oh boy, there's a lot to unpack here. So Puss in Boots' Last Wish begins with one of my favorite character introductions of last year. In this elaborate opening in which Puss sings to an excited crowd right before taking down a giant in the most pompous way possible, the film establishes the careless attitude to which Puss has approached life. In fact, all of the ways in which Puss have died have largely been due to either carelessness, arrogance, or often a mixture of both. Now, the main reason Puss in Boots has, until now, approached life carelessly is due to the knowledge that he can die 8 times and still be fine. But it also shows a tendency for younger people, especially, to not worry about death. While we might know that death is inevitable and even it could come at any moment, we're not usually thinking about death. Even Puss's warning from the doctor initially doesn't stray him from his original path. It isn't until Puss meets death, figuratively and literally, that he begins to worry about his own mortality. We're given this moment where his life flashes before his eyes, which is still one of my favorite moments in animation of all time. Fight me. But it's from this fear of death that drives Puss to live out his days at Mama Luna's, hoping that such a life will shield him from death. He of course then learns about the wishing star and chooses to wish his lives back. It should be noted that despite these being opposite solutions, they are both ways in which Puss can hope to prolong death. One by avoiding any possibility that death will come, and the other by literally prolonging his life. But Puss's main flaw isn't just his fear of death, but his loneliness and his arrogance, which have kept him apart from others. I don't really need to go into too much detail about this because the film is pretty explicit about this. But one small detail I like is that as Puss faces his final confrontation with death, he has yet another life flashing before his eyes moment. Yet this time the moment is intercut with moments from the film of Puss living his life to the fullest with Kitty and Perito. It's this, alongside Puss's acceptance of the inevitability of death, that allows Puss to properly defeat death. For now, that is. Whereas in Barbie, death's discovery is used as a rite of passage to growing into a full adult. In Puss in Boots, death is depicted as something that's inescapable. Barbie more shows the learning or realization that death is a thing, while Puss in Boots reconciles with the fear that no matter how hard we fight, death is actually coming. Much like how Puss tries to cheat death, first by putting aside any risky behavior, then by literally finding a way to prolong his life, we also try to find ways to prolong our own lives, hoping to one day escape the finality of death. While Puss in Boots argues that death is scary, it also acknowledges that the ways Puss initially deals with death, first by ignoring, then hiding, then attempting to cheat death, are all unhealthy in their own ways. Ignoring death allows him to become reckless and in turn arrogant. Hiding cuts him off from any satisfying life or relationship, making his life meaningless as he simply waits for it to be over. It's fitting then that Death only truly is depicted as actively pursuing Puss once he tries to cheat Death. It's a constant reminder that Puss's hopes and our own hopes that defeating Death is an impossibility and that Death is always coming for us. The only way in which Puss defeats Death, then, is accepting that death is a part of life. In order for us to have meaningful lives, we must acknowledge that death exists and is inevitable, but such a realization shouldn't stop us from living.
It's weird how everyone's acting like nothing is different. Like, to me, everything feels different now.
Even though it's just a maybe?
Goodbye Volcano High is a 2023 coming-of-age video game that follows a group of teenage anthropomorphic dinosaurs. During the last year of high school, an asteroid is discovered to be coming to destroy the planet, and the game follows as the teens begin to grapple with their extinction and mortality. Now, what I find interesting about Goodbye Volcano High and the way in which it explores death is how it turns death into a collective. Most media that handles the acceptance of death, including Barbie and Puss in Boots, are more focused on accepting one's own mortality. Goodbye Volcano High, however, grapples with the idea that everyone will die. Goodbye Volcano High confronts the player with the idea that everyone, you, your family, your friends, your classmates, your teachers, your co-workers, celebrities, strangers, everyone you know will one day be dead. By focusing on such a wide array of characters, Goodbye Volcano High becomes interesting in showing how different characters deal with the news of their incoming demise. Fang distracts themselves by focusing on their music, with the hope of winning at Caldera Fest and going on tour with their band, while we know that can't happen. Fang knows that death is coming, but simply chooses to ignore it, to not think about it. They assume that they will live long enough to make that dream a reality. Reed, on the other hand, is filled with nihilism the second he hears the news of the asteroid. As soon as he learns that they're all gonna die, he becomes filled with dread at their impending doom. While the others around him are slower to realize the impact the asteroid will make, Reed appears to be fully accepting, but in the worst way possible. Nomi, a girl who throughout high school was focused on her studies and getting into a good college, initially tries to ignore the asteroid. It doesn't take long, however, for this to become a pointless exercise. While initially ignoring it and continuing to focus on her future like Fang, she soon adopts a position of frustration. Anger that all of her hard work, all of her endless nights of studying and research were ultimately for nothing.
Better to accept reality for what it is. No point in getting upset about it.
Maybe for you guys, but some of us had plans for the future.
Excuse me?
Guys!
It's easy for you guys to give up on everything, but I had so much planned. I have so many things I've worked on that I'll never get to see.
In the beginning of Goodbye Volcano High, it's easy to almost forget that the asteroid is even there. You're focused on Fang's music, hanging out with their friends, or playing Dino D&D. But as the asteroid draws nearer, it becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. Soon, the whole city adopts a feeling of apathy. When Caldera Fest is cancelled, Fang can no longer ignore the reality of the situation. They, and everyone they know, is about to die. But instead of doing nothing, instead of simply waiting for the asteroid to come and kill them all, Fang decides to do something about it, to put on their own Caldera Fest right before the asteroid hits. Rather than sit around and wallow in their self-pity, Fang decides to go out in an almost literal blaze of glory. The idea that you will one day die is agonizing enough. To reconcile that everyone around you will also die is almost inconceivable. Or at least, it's not the way we usually think about death. But Goodbye Volcano High also acknowledges that, like Puss in Boots, we shouldn't let the knowledge of death's inevitability prevent us from living. It explores different ways that people will grapple with death, then brings them together and decides that such a fear shouldn't scare us from living. Rather, much like Fang, it should inspire us to live, to not put off our dreams of the future and instead pursue them right now.
And that's it. Behind you, the portal closes, sealing yourselves and Braxis away. For a long time, you drift through the void, dreaming. You see glimpses of memories, happy moments, loose ends you never got to resolve. Eventually, though, you start to lose grip. It becomes too hard to hold on to yourselves in the tempest. You have to let go. And so you do. You all, one by one, let yourself go in the portal. I wish I could tell you where you end up, but I don't know. I like to think it's somewhere nice, though. What I do know is that the world you left behind was saved. People will live and die happy lives, in peace, because of what you all did. They won't remember you, or even know you existed. But they'll be there because of you. Beyond that, though, I'm not sure. My guess is as good as yours. That's it. The end, I guess.
Was it worth it all? 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 Baby with the wind when you said goodbye, got my eyes up, baby with the pulling tide. I did not know